I'm calling the meeting to order at 5:13.
Recording in progress.
Can I get someone to make a motion to approve the agenda, please?
So moved.
Barbara is making the motion. Can I get a second? Jess or Ethan?
Second, sorry.
Oh, thank you, Ethan. All right, second. All those that approve the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
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 All right, all those opposed? Thank you. Okay. At this time, we are going to move into executive session, which means that only the board and the people here for the grievance can stay in the room. The rest of you, I'm going to ask to go out into the hall until the grievance is over. Okay? Thank you. So we thank you very much for everyone's patience as we went through that process. We are back in regular session, and now we are at communications with parents, citizens, and staff, which I think you might be here to want to do that. So it's your turn.
Well, let's make sure, can people at home hear us?
Lori?
Yeah.
Excuse me. I never got a motion to go in.
Yeah, we did. We had a motion to go in at 5:13. Started by
I got the
Brenda,
time, but
Barbara, and Ethan got us in, and then we came out of deliberative session at 6:17.
thank you.
No problem. Thank you. I think they can hear us.
Good.
Okay. All right. So,
Hi.
your turn.
Hi, everybody. I'm Justin Sheehy. I live in Chittenden. I have two lovely little girls that go to Barstow. I have two items that I wanted to bring up.
Okay.
And I know we're well into our budget season and baking things away. My first question is, are we at all considering making pre-K 5 days a week at some point in time?
Not in the next year.
Yeah.
Definitely. We talked about it at our last meeting because I had received a couple of emails from your wife. And I did indicate at that time that if we were to expand pre-K to 5 days a week, we would want to do it in equity for all of our kids.
Sure.
And we don't necessarily have space for everyone at this time to do that.
Yeah.
So,
And it gives us more time to plan.
And it gives us more time to plan as well.
Yeah.
So I can't say that it's off the table for 26, 27,
Yeah.
but for 25, 26 it is.
Yeah, no, I understand. And you guys understand that it brings, I think, a better development for children to have more consistency in a 5-day-a-week program.
Mm-hmm.
Also, outside of that, there's different things for parents to deal with as well, having
Sure.
a 3-day program when there's other programs outside our district that are 5 days a week.
Understood.
That's my first one.
Okay.
Second one is Maeve is going to miss the cutoff, which you're probably aware of.
I
Maybe
did
you're
not know that one.
By a
but-
couple weeks.
Okay. So she'll miss the September 1st.
Correct. So
Deadline.
she's in pre-K now.
Okay.
So my question is, on rules of exception, I understand the policy you guys have and the policy the state has for age and requirements and all that. My question is it possible to get an exception so that Maeve can go into kindergarten next year? And our feeling is that because, and I'm sure every parent says this about their kid, she's a well-astute child, but at the same time, we want her to have, the education that she should deserve and not hang around in pre-K for another year.
Sure. So I would tell you at this time that the best way to do that is to write a letter to the district
Sure,
and send it to the superintendent.
sure.
And then we would write back to you with, and then we can go through the process that way.
Yep, no, that's fine. I'm following, as Debbie knows,
Mm-hmm.
we're pretty involved people in Chittenden, so we're doing the right things.
Well, and I appreciate that.
So that's fine. We will do that.
Okay.
I appreciate the time.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you
Thank
for
you for
coming
waiting.
It
in.
was worth waiting.
Was it?
Yes. Well, and we welcome you. You're new, and I hope you're enjoying it here. It's a great community to be a part of.
I agree wholeheartedly.
There's a lot of good people that surround our schools, and I think you'll enjoy it.
Thank
You can send that letter in via email too. It doesn't have to
Who
come.
should I send it to?
Send it to the
Yeah,
superintendent.
send it to me
Okay.
right
Yeah.
at the central office.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Well, I'm all done, so I
All
won't
right,
take up
well-
any more time.
Thank you very much,
Okay,
Mr.
thank
Sheehy.
you.
Have a nice night.
Good to see you. Take care.
All right, any other communication with parents, citizens, and staff? I see lots of people online. If anybody would like to speak, please either unmute yourself or raise that little hand thing that you can do in Zoom land. Okay, well then I guess you're just here to hear me talk. Excellent. So we're going to move on then to the consent agenda. Can I get someone to make a motion, please?
I move we accept the consent agenda.
Okay, so Barbara is
Approve,
making
whatever.
motion for the consent agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Jess. All right, all those in favor of the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. Oh, there's nobody to oppose. Great. Consent agenda passes. Great. Moving on. Presentations. Our first one is the overview of student support services. I believe that is you.
That is me. Colby, can you present my, or I'm sorry,
Renee.
Renee.
All
can
right,
you
let
present
me,
my- And I will try to keep it as brief as I can. And I do know, I mean, I have some, and folks online, I do have it linked into the presentation. I have some information I can go over.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think this was in your presentation. I think I looked at it.
Okay,
today.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's no problem.
Thank you.
And just to go ahead and get started while we're putting that up there, my name is Brian Crane, and I am the Director of Student Support Services for RNESU. I am new this year. I've worked for this is, I believe, my 5th year in the district. I was an instructional coach, then became principal of Otter Creek Academy, and this is probably overall my 23rd year in education. And if you want to, Renee, can you go to the next slide? As you can see, that's my son Max and me. And I just want to note that I've dedicated my entire career to starting in Concord, Vermont, back in 2002, I guess, and dedicated my entire career to education in Vermont, to students in Vermont. Myself being from Vermont, from St. Johnsbury, Vermont, and when it all began for me, my middle school teachers at St. Johnsbury Middle School really advocating for me and moving me, giving me the confidence I needed, making that difference in my life. That's kind of what brought me to education. And I ended up here. It's my honor and privilege to support RNESU and to support our most vulnerable students here in our district and give them the supports they need to find success. Can you move to the next slide? I just have a few goals in this presentation. First off, to kind of talk about some of the goals that I've set, and then move into just a little piece of data. We're trying to become more data-centered and look at our data. And one of the most interesting, I find interesting, pieces of data in special education is called child count. So we'll talk a little bit tonight about child count, and also I'll end my presentation talking a little bit about the Bruce Academy, because there's been a lot of questions about that. So as a leader, as a principal, and now as a director, I'm very goal driven. So I kind of selected some goals to guide me as a leader in this department. It helps me keep me focused. It helps us feel a sense of collective efficacy. There's lots of reasons to do some goal setting. The 3 that I set this year were family-friendly IEP, individualized educational programs, IEP meetings. We use agendas. We try to make sure we understand that the relationships.
Recording in progress.
Oh, we missed all that?
Yeah. Gotta start over. No.
That's my best work. We know that in education, our relationships with each other and our relationships with our families are really the cornerstone of what we do, especially when we talk about students with IEPs, students with disabilities. We really need to be a team. We need to work together to support our students to overcome those challenges so our students can find success. We all want the same thing at the end of the day. So having families on the same page, slowing down, explaining things for families, getting through all of that special education jargon in helping them understand these processes. And special education is very confusing. There's a lot of rules, there's a lot of regulations, there's a lot of processes. It's important for families to understand and also to help them understand their rights and all of this. So being more family-centric, family-friendly in our IEP meetings, we are creating a parent advisory panel, and we are doing some quality surveys because there needs to be some metrics to all these goals. Another goal that I set is to help improve paraprofessional learning. We're doing something on early release days called essential question sessions. So we have an internal expert come and present, and then we kind of have a facilitated discussion. And at the beginning of the year, I polled special educators, paraprofessionals, and administrators about what do paras need to keep growing, to keep improving. It is my philosophy that we are a learning institution, and we all have to be lifelong learners in this in RNESU or any school district. We are in the business of learning, and we all need to continue learning. So the essential question is a way for us to do that for our paraprofessionals. They're the ones in the classrooms always supporting our students, and they need to keep growing and improve the tools in their toolbox as well. I am doing some staff exit tickets, and we'll measure the program at the end. So far, paraprofessionals are very appreciative of it. They like it, and we'll see by the end of the year. I will pull it all together and see if this is something that we would want to continue for next year, and I hope it is, because it feels really good. And the topics that we're covering. For example, on Friday, the SLP team is coming together, and they're putting together a presentation on positive communication for paraprofessionals. I'm very excited, and I'm very thankful to the SLP team for assisting with that. It's going to be, I'm very excited. And finally, we're doing a lot of articulation of departmental processes. Most recently, we're focusing on functional behavioral analysis, FBAs, and behavior intervention plans. Something that's been something that I believe in, something that we've been working on, and just getting us consistent district-wide. There's a lot of new things going on in special education. As of this year, the Office of Special Education has released new guidance on FBAs. So there's a lot changing in special education, and this is a way for us to keep up with it. So we're keeping track of behavior data, school climate data, and also staff feedback on whether or not these FBAs and these behavior intervention plans are working and helping support students and helping them be successful in school. So that is it for some of the departmental goals. Of course, there's so much more going on with that than that, but I like to focus on a few areas. Renee, can you move on to the next slide? Child count. So I find this very, very, very interesting. And what child count is the total number of students in special education in our district. We have a little under 1,500 students in our district. It's good to keep in mind this kind of gets put, and it will be put into a percentage later on in the slide. And I bring this up because it's important for us as we think about funding, where to put our resources. This is really important information for us to understand as we move forward, and as we set goals, like I said, as we figure out where to put our resources to best support students. Going back to 2022, each December we submit this to the state, and the state gives this data back to us. So as we can see, in 2022, we had a total of 197 students, in special education. 2023, 209, and 2024. This is our most current data. We have 222. So I think what I want the board and everyone to understand is we are seeing an upward tick in students in special education. There are a number of reasons, like I alluded to previously. There are a lot of changes in the rules in special education. For example, there is a new basic skill area of it's not new, but we've added, the state has added functional performance as a basic skill area, which has kind of changed things a little bit. Just to make it a note, there are 13 disability areas. You're not going to see all 13 because either A, it was zero, the number was zero, or the state of Vermont, for privacy purposes, has us suppress any numbers less than 12 to protect student privacy, which is very important. Can you move on to the next slide, please? Oh, hold that thought. Hold that thought. Can you go back? Okay. The red bar I thought was a very important piece of the puzzle as I talk about the numbers upticking a little bit. Other health impairment we call OHI. As you can see, it went from 36 in 2022, 43 2023, and then up to 57 in 2024. So we're seeing a large increase in other health impairment. And that is primarily due to some of the rule changes in eligibility, and how we make kids eligible, how the state has kind of guided us along that. And we are seeing, for example, a lot of diagnoses of ADHD coming into special education under the disability area of OHI. They have to meet all 3 gates of eligibility, of course, but that's kind of why we're seeing that. So it's good to think about that as we think about behavior plans, support plans, and whatnot. It's good for us to understand that. Now it's okay. All right. So demographic trends, as I was saying, the percent of students. So we take our child count and divide it by our total student enrollment. 2021 we had 14.3%, 2022 13.8%, 2023 13.2%, and then we see in 2024, based on our current enrollment, it was 15.5% of students. And that number doesn't mean a ton, but I'd like to put it into context. Renee, can you go to the next slide, please? I like to think about it in terms of our region, our Southwest region, and the state of Vermont. And as we can see in 2023, regionally, the percentage of students in special education is 19.2%. The state average in Vermont is 18.9%. RNESU is 13.2%. So we are under what our regional partners or colleagues and the state of Vermont. So this upticking, could happen for a number of reasons, but this upticking will bring us more in line with our region and in Vermont as well. Any questions on that's kind of it. I'm kind of rushing a little bit because I know it's getting late. But any questions? Go ahead.
No. I'm just saying it's okay. Take your time.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Just some of the just kind of what we're thinking about analyzing these. What does it mean? We see a 12.7% increase, and this indicates a rising need for special education services in our district. More students becoming eligible, more students needing those higher level of supports. There's a notable increase in other health impairment. I've already talked about that on OHI and the diagnosis of ADHD. We're also seeing there was, if you noticed, a decline in speech and language students with speech and language impairment. And this could be, I don't know for sure, but we are working really hard in our early intervention and targeting. The SLP team has really been growing, really doing a great job of catching these things early and supporting those students.
Now I have a question.
Yes.
Okay. Are you done?
Yes.
Okay. So my question is that you said you're seeing an increase in total enrollment. Are we seeing that increase as younger kids, or are we seeing
So we're seeing it in total enrollment. We're seeing a decline, right?
Okay.
In like general education and special education.
Okay.
But we're seeing an increase in special education. So the percentage of students needing specialized services.
right? And I guess
Oh,
what I'm
are we
asking, are we seeing them as younger students coming in, so we're catching them faster, or is it are we starting to
That's a really
identify?
I do have all that data,
Okay.
that's a really my instinct is I think we are evaluating and determining eligibility earlier. So I suspect that we do have larger numbers. The percentage would be larger in elementary school, but I would have to look at the data and
That's fine.
find
I was
out.
just
But
curious.
I could certainly find that out. This is a great question, great focus for.
And
Yeah.
if I might add in that we are learning about all of the new rules that are going along with Act 139 and the new reading laws, so that would have more screeners for reading and that identify students earlier as well, that go into effect at the end of this year. So we're doing all of that work right now. So.
Thank you.
Next slide, please. Okay, so and this is where and I get quite a few questions about the Bruce Academy. So just to say right off the bat, the Bruce Academy is an alternative program at the North Campus and at the Sudbury Campus, and entry into the program is not dependent on any disability area or special education status or whatnot. And I would never talk about that, and to protect the privacy of the students there. But what I can talk about is the mission and vision of each site, and what I call the 3 pillars, and to just tell the board that I am certain that every student participating in the program right now, this is the best educational setting for the student. And I know there's a lot of questions out there about why not have students who are participating in the Bruce Academy return to their home schools. And let me just say that an IEP team, 504 team, whatever student support team, it is a huge decision that's made by that team, and all of these things are weighed, and there are entrance criteria and exit criteria, and it gets evaluated at least every year, if not more, about what is the least restrictive, if we're talking special education, what is the least restrictive environment. And at the Sudbury campus, the 3 pillars are communication, they are life skills, and and social emotional skills. So we focus on those 3 areas, but we do so much more than that. But students who are enrolled there need some extra support in those areas. At the Bruce Academy at North Campus, which we call it BASS and we call it Bank. The 3 pillars are around self-advocacy, self-regulation, and those life skills or functional skills as well. So we're constantly working on getting those skills in place to make them successful wherever they might move on to or move back to their home schools. And the Bruce Academy at North Campus, we have Vermont's only therapeutic makerspace that we've been working on, and we love to make stuff there, and it's some good stuff, and everybody's working hard and supporting the students at these campuses. So are there any questions about the Bruce Academy? I might be able to answer.
I think since we're on camera and because we're in budget season, I think it's important to note that the Bruce Academy at Sudbury School, if those students were not there, they would be sent out of district more than likely at the tune of a lot of money, compared to the fact that the Sudbury School is, all we have to do is maintain it and keep it heated.
Yep.
And so we are able to keep our students at home, which is a much more homey place for them, number one. And number two, I've been there, and it is a lovely place. Those kids are just so happy to be there, and it's an amazing thing to be able to keep them in district, and I think it's important that people know that.
Thank you. So there's the financial aspect too, and there's just the fact that there aren't out-of-district placements, and if there are, there are wait lists, they're very expensive. And I like to think of it as at the Bruce Academy, we can control the quality. We know that students there are cared for and given the best. Whereas if we go out of district, there are some wonderful places out there, but there are also maybe some not so wonderful places, and we want the best for our students. So we would want to, if we can keep students in district, it's both financially and it's what's best for the health and safety.
Yeah, and there are programs. I mean, I stopped there the other day on my way to school.
So that's a very good point. Thank you. Yeah. Any other questions about the Bruce Academy? It's a great program. All right, so that ends my presentations. Are there any other, there's so much more to talk about, but I don't want to keep you here all night.
Any questions from board members?
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you,
Brian.
Okay, moving on. We have one more presentation, an overview of communications, including advisory committees. Max Berman.
right.
Said it right then.
Yes.
Max, I have it too.
Yes. While Renee is pulling that up, following Brian, I'll give a little background on myself. So I'm Max Berman. This is my 4th year in RNESU. It's my 2nd year in this role. Prior to this, I was a technology integration coach here, and I taught middle school and high school social studies before that. So this is an overview of the communications department of one. But just because I am the only person within the department doesn't mean that there aren't a lot of other people working on communications as well. So kind of going over key responsibilities of the communications office. The first is reach out, our reporting system, website updates, emergency communications, media engagement, and budget communications. Those are kind of the 5 key areas that I focus on. So I'll go through each of these. So reach out, we started this 2 years ago. This replaced the Let's Talk system. Reach out is entirely built in-house, so we no longer have to pay for Let's Talk. It is about 26 different spreadsheets that all compile together. Lots of formula that comes to me. I monitor the system, so every time we get a reach out, I send it to the person who's responsible for responding to it. I make sure that we are responding to people in a timely manner. And I track all of that and to create reports every month for the RNESU board, as well as our OVU and BUU boards. And then I also maintain the system, performing regular checkups, making sure that we're not missing anything when people submit, because we want to make sure we have that open communication with the community. Next slide. Please. And this is just a picture of what you see when you go to our website to submit a reach out. It goes on for a lot longer on the page, but I can only grab a small screenshot. Organized by schools, departments, all of that. So website updates is another large part of my job. Debbie and I were just talking out in the hallway about when our continuous improvement plan is settled, how we can get it on the website in a great way. That really makes it clear to folks to see. I've spent a lot of time updating our department websites. When Brian took over this year, making sure that Brian's image was on the page and Brian's contact information was there for student support services. A big part of this is ADA compliance. There are new regulations for the ADA coming into effect in 2026 that our website needs to be up to date with. That's screen compatibility, like screen readers need to be able to read our site, and a lot of other features that I'm going through every single page on our website, making sure we're compliant with that prior to 2026 so we don't get in trouble for that. Updating staff directories. At the start of every new school year, obviously we have lots of new staff, making sure that parents are able to access those teachers, being able to see who's working with their kids. Maintaining consistent branding and style throughout, making sure we have a cohesive website design, making sure that we're using the same fonts, making sure that we're using the same type of text, so that when people go from page to page and school to school, they're getting the same message that RNESU is one. And working with Aptigee, that is our internet service provider, making sure that we are getting updates to our system that will best serve our staff and our families. One thing I've been working with them on recently is trying to get a separate part of our website that our staff can actually log into to get access to materials that staff need on a daily basis. Because right now, that doesn't exist, so staff need to get materials through Google Drive, which can get lost. So making sure we have a central hub. So working with our internet service provider, not our internet service provider, working with our website manager to make sure we have that. Next slide, please. Oh, and a lovely picture of me. communications, there's all these different departments that I have worked on to update their web presence. So making sure that our HR page is the most up-to-date as possible. So I work with Brooke at the start of 2025 to make sure our health insurance information is up to date so that staff can see what they need to see for health insurance. Next slide, please. So emergency communications are another big part of my job. Last year I created a 36-page document. It's our emergency communications plan. It contains scripts for emergency situations for our principals so that in an emergency situation they don't need to think about what to send to families, they can just communicate. I provide counsel on communications and communication strategies. When do we communicate about something that happens? Who do we communicate that with? What information do we communicate? A couple weeks ago when we had the FedEx truck and our school bus get into an accident, figuring out, okay, what do we know? What can we communicate right now? What groups need to know this information right now? And then assist in disseminating important notifications to the community. Obviously, recently that has been things like Power School. How do we get this information out there? How do we make sure that people know what is going on? Next slide, please. And that's just an image of the emergency communications plan that's located on the the safety page of our website. Media engagement. Obviously, with communications, dealing with the media is an important part of my job. We have, thanks to the Rutland Herald, every 6-ish weeks, the In the Schools feature. So that is a full-page ad that we get for free in the Rutland Herald. So that started, this is our 3rd year now participating in that program. I do say every 6-ish weeks because that's the timeline, but sometimes it has to get pushed for other reasons from the Rutland Herald. So our last page was in December. Our next one is going to be in March. That's also gets shared with the Brandon Reporter, and the Brandon Reporter will pull select stories from there to run in the paper. Working with local news organizations, creating those opportunities to interact, share our message with a wider audience, setting up interviews with Stephen Jupiter, with Renee, so we can talk about the budget, and making sure that we are getting out into the community, showing what is going on. And then also increasing our social media presence. Over the past year, our social media presence has grown greatly. Looking at the data through our Meta business page for Facebook, we have gained a lot more followers, we get a lot more likes, we get a lot more views on our videos. So we are definitely getting out into the community more. People are seeing what we're putting out there, which is great. We've also got an increased presence on Front Porch Forum. We used to only have access to Brandon's Front Porch Forum. We now do have access to more towns. I will be emailing some board members just looking for some extra help because there's a few towns we couldn't get access to. Just to make sure, especially when we're communicating the budget, we're able to get out there in every town. So that is a sample from the most recent In the Schools feature from the Rutland Herald. And that's just half of it. Because again, I couldn't fit the whole 20-inch sheet in the newspaper. And then finally, budget communications. I think everything I do within the communications department does funnel back to budget communications. While not everything from our department is about the budget, if we're able to effectively communicate throughout the year, it means that our budget communications will be easier. If people are seeing the why of what we're doing in our schools, if they're seeing the learning, if they're seeing what's happening in schools, it's going to make our budget communications easier. So it's important that we're collaborating with those important stakeholders, though, for our budget-specific communications, right? Working with the boards, meeting with them, working with the town boards. I met with the Brandon Town Board last year to work on, when we were in our 3rd budget vote, making sure our communications were kind of aligned. Working with district administrators, school administrators, the associations, to make sure that everyone is on board with the budget. How can we communicate this best into the community? We're developing a mixed media approach to communicate the budget this year. Renee and I have talked about creating videos, short format videos that can really get our message out there. creating flyers, mailers. I've been meeting with our mail service to create these mailers a lot the past couple of days to make sure that we are ready to go. Working on the annual report, and then also updating our budget webpage for FAQs, presentations to the board, etc. And our next slide is just an image of our budget website. Again, on our website right now, you can see this video from Vermont Public Radio on how does Vermont fund its schools, property tax calculator, so people can see the impact on their taxes from the school budget. So that's all up there right now, and more will be coming on there. FAQs, the presentations Brenda's given to the board, all of that stuff. Any questions?
Any questions? No? Questions? Jess? Ethan? No?
No, just thank.
Yep, thank you. Yes,
course.
very much thank you. Awesome. All right. All right. Moving forward, we have a monitoring report. It's in your packet. 2.1, treatment of students and parents. If anyone wants to make a motion so that we can approve that or accept it, I think we have to accept.
I move we accept it.
Okay, so Barbara has moved to accept. Jess or Ethan, do you want to second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion regarding monitoring report 2.1, treatment of students and staff? No? Anything you want to say?
Just one kind of new kind of wrinkle, if you will. So in addition to the document, I'll also start creating these just really quick slide decks so that board members can kind of go through it and see things kind of summarized. So like, for example, I'll put the EL list here, and in this one it's talking about how or in this particular executive limitation is making sure that as the superintendent that I'm keeping parents and students keeping their maintaining their data, making sure that we're not asking them for anything above and beyond what we really actually need, making sure that we have our facilities appropriately accessible and private, and also making sure that we are really serving our students in an inclusive way. So this is an example of this is what the executive limitation looks like. Then as part of it, I have to provide my interpretation of the executive limitation. So I'll be distilling the themes. In this case, it's making sure that we have an inclusive collaborative culture, clear communication and transparency, accessible and secure environments, making sure that we are proactively addressing our stakeholders, and trying to make sure that we are addressing and understand that we need to provide equity and support for students to achieve their potential. Then I'll also include where we're getting the basis for this interpretation. So the links will be there so that others can see it and access it. And then beyond that, between the observable conditions and the evidence, people will be able to see not only what we believe that we're already doing that shows that we're meeting this executive limitation, so that it's a little bit more accessible, and that people can be able to ask questions of it in an easier fashion, as opposed to having to read a 6 or 7 page document that has already been shortened from a much longer document as well.
Perfect.
So that's it.
Awesome. Any other questions for Renee or about the report? Hearing none, all of those that accept monitoring report 2.1, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay.
Aye.
Awesome. Okay, it passes. Moving on, superintendent progress report. That's you too.
That's me too. Okay. So I will share again. And so I've already provided this presentation in both the OVU and the BU, so I could be fairly quick in this one. Let's see. And then, so again, I am really honored to have been selected as the superintendent moving forward, effective January 1. And so, as we were discussing, because this is the time of the year where the RNESU board would be conducting their annual superintendent evaluation. So, as we were discussing this, since I was up until December the interim superintendent, there really wasn't going to be an evaluation. But I wanted to go ahead and just talk a little bit about what we've been able to accomplish as a supervisory union and as an administration so far. So these first few slides, again, going back to why is there a superintendent evaluation, just making sure that we loop that in. So, of course, here's information about the district quality standards within there. They expect that school boards need to evaluate superintendents. Within our own governance monitoring, we have to supervise and monitor the superintendent performance. And so now we get to when I was asked and was selected for this role. There were a couple of things that I had in my mind that I needed to make sure that I abided by, because it was part of the conversations that we had leading up to the role. So one, many of the administrators who are within the school district are new to their roles, or they're new to the district. So with my 30 years of experience, it made a lot of sense that I would be able to bring that experience and be able to work with our administrators so we can set the goals needed for the district. And when things would arise, very often I've already been either a part of issues or have been around other administrators who've had issues, so that way we can think through it and co-create a solution. Number two, given last year's 3 budget votes, it was really important to pass a budget. So that has not been very far from my mind since I arrived here. Again, coming back to my experience, making sure that I'm utilizing my external professional experience to help our administrators and help the board gauge what the schools and the district needs. Originally, not being the official superintendent, but rather the interim, I wanted to make sure that as I came in, that I would be able to strengthen or create systems for the next person up, so that way the next superintendent would have the ability to step right into the role and be able to work closely with the administrators and central office, so that way they would be seamless. And then finally, work to build connections both with internal staff as well as our 8 towns. So in this first 6 months, I just listed a bunch of verbs because I like verbs, but it was really important for me to make myself available and listen and observe every opportunity that I had, whether it was in schools or out in the community. I ask a lot of questions. Frequently, if somebody asks me a question, I respond with a question right back. So that way I can make sure that I know exactly what they're asking. And then so when you combine those two things, there was a lot of learning going on. There was a lot of unearthing going on as well. So as I was able to understand a little bit more, I was able to utilize, again, my experience and assess and evaluate, and it allowed me to kind of like connect a great many dots. And I am really, really thankful that we have a very understanding and caring board. They are very much interested in making sure that our students have what they need to be successful. And I also believe that all of our employees, and I would really like to thank my administrative staff too at central office and my principals for being able to literally fill in the dots for me, or fill in the blanks for me when I had questions, and that's not just about bringing educational experience, but it's also about the context. And I believe that RNESU's context is incredibly important to making sure that we make the right decisions. So here's just a big long list of things, and so I'll just mention a few. some of the things that I'm really, really happy that we've been able to do, or that I've been able to have the time to do, is meet with our Otter Valley and Stafford 12th graders. Every Friday since November, I've set aside Friday morning to take time to meet with them individually, so that way I can learn about their experience. If they've been in OV or in Stafford the entire time, learn about their entire learning journey, or if they've only been in for a little bit, just getting to know what they think about their educational experience, as well as what we could do better for them. It's also great to learn the great and varied opportunities that they'll be seeking after graduation. Also, we've been able to collaborate with both the Vermont Principals Association and with the Vermont NEA to provide training to our administrators, so that way we have a really good idea of where it is that we're going and how to serve our employees when we're on that journey. And then the last one of defining the global ends for each board. That is a really big task, because when you start with the global ends, it's basically everything that could possibly be done in a school district, but because it starts off as almost a theoretical or philosophical opportunity or problem, or however you want to see it. It's a lot of fun to be engaging in those exercises, and then working with our staff to make sure that we know exactly what it is that the board is asking us to do. So we're having a lot of fun do that. So upcoming, we're going to continue with our community meetings, and I'm also be moving, including things like libraries and the transfer station, and adding office hours for campus employees after school. We'll also be going to faculty meetings in the month of February to talk about the budget, and so that way we have that feedback available to us. I'll also be expanding my conversations with the OV Stafford 11th graders, and expanding my conversations to include the Barstow 8th graders, so I can learn about their experience in their school, as well as what their plans are for when they go to high school and for college. And then I'd like to highlight number 5 too, is that it's really important for us, especially as we're looking at our global ends, that we understand that everything that we do every day is for our students to make sure that when they move on to their next opportunity after graduation, that they're ready for it. And so every interaction that we have, every assessment, every communication, every grading opportunity, all of those things are leading us to the next one of those things. And so then that gets us through one grade, that gets us to the next school, the next level. And so what I'm hoping to do is create this, is to really tie all of our systems together, so that when we make decisions in one area of our district, it affects the other areas of our district as well. So it will ask us to work more collaboratively, so that way we know what that vision and implementation of an alignment will actually look like. So that's it.
Great. Questions? Sounds like he's been really busy.
It's fun.
So, okay. All right. Let's see. Superintendent informational report. Anything else you want to? Since you've been doing a lot of talking, we'll let you finish.
So I won't pull that up, but at the very end of that report, there's a bunch of links to all of the kind of machinations that the state of Vermont and the Agency of Education are working on right now. So if you have the opportunity to look at their either the PICUS report or the school funding in Vermont report, those are really interesting things, and that I think they will kind of they'll set us down the path of what I believe the governor and the agencies of education secretary are planning for the next few weeks. So we will have much more information once that concludes. But if you kind of want to get a preview of it, I would definitely check those out.
Okay. All right, then. Our next meeting, I was looking because it says Thursday, February 12th. I just wanted to make sure that was the right date.
I believe so, because the third Thursday is break.
But it's Wednesday. It is
Oh, third
Wednesday the 12th.
Wednesday.
It's the, right, so it's Wednesday, the February 12th. Our agenda says Thursday, February 12th. So, just so everybody knows, we are meeting Wednesday, February 12th, here at 5 o'clock. There is no need for executive
Another one.
executive session, right? We've already done that once tonight. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn at 7:07.
So moved.
So moved.
Or second.
All right, Ethan and Barbara this time.
Yeah.
All right, well, signing off is your way of saying good night. So good night.
Good night.